So we have to start off with some interesting news coming out of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. And it's interesting because of the mixed reviews on this particular matter. And even for myself, my initial reaction was very mixed. It was very kind of bittersweet. You would think this would be kind of up my alley, considering the coverage we talk about with Israel and Palestine. You would think that this would be like a bit of a sigh of relief, but my initial reaction to hearing the news that Mark Carney has signed executive order to recognize the state of Palestine, my initial reaction was, why? Why? Why at this point, towards the end of September 2025, after the mass campaign to eliminate all of Gaza, all of the West Bank, and all the Palestinians, exile them out of their homeland, out of their houses, get them as far away from this territory, cause a humanitarian disaster, starve and pillage mothers, children, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, all sorts of people. Why all of a sudden now is Canada signing an executive order to recognize the Palestine State that is complete rubble? Like, it just seems so barbaric to just do this now. Out of all the time that they could have had the opportunity, out of all the time, out of all the leverage they could have done to prevent this. Now that the deed is done, now the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu are on their final stages of complete occupation of the territory, and furthermore, part of the greater Israeli project, Mark Carney is signing this order for whom exactly? Well, I have some theories. I have multiple theories on this, actually. One of them being that, hey, this could be an opportunity to shut off the protesters, to say, hey, we did something about this, shut the hell up. Two, it's kind of a smack in the face to the United States that obviously is continuing on this pledge as much as possible. It's very, observant to people to realize that Israel has taken over the American governance, that the entire administration has been hijacked by this foreign entity. It's very aware to people. So Mark Carney doing this could be a jab at America. It could also be the fact that, hey, since the UN and the international courts have, for a while now, recognized the damages that Israel has done to Gaza, and considering that the UN has special rapporteurs going after Canada for its abuses of the temporary foreign worker program, we have expressed that in large detail, that maybe Mark Carney and his administration that still continue to abuse temporary foreign workers wants to throw the UN off course by saying, look, we're willing to accept Palestine as a state. There's no reason to look further into Canada and our atrocities and recognize our problematic situation in this country. There's no reason to look in that. But honestly, why? Honestly, why? Why did they choose now to recognize Palestine as a state? It's like signing the deed to a house that's burnt to a crisp. Hey, you could buy this property now. You don't have shelter. You don't have space. It's complete ash. Oh, and by the way, I paid the arsonist to torch the building. But here's the keys. Go survive. Go die off. I don't care anymore. It just seems absolutely absurd. So here's the CBC covering it, saying Canada recognizes the state of Palestine, offers to help to build peaceful future with Israel. Prospect of two-state solution has gravely eroded due to Hamas-Israel actions, the Prime Minister's office says. I think there's a huge difference between eroding and deliberately attacking. Okay, eroding would be that the buildings still remain, that there wouldn't be thousands, upwards to millions of starving civilians. This is not an erosion. This is a complete annihilation. And Canada knows this. So again, I just find it so insane, so diabolical that at this point, they're recognizing Palestine as a state. A state of what? A state of what? Because it's literally rubble. It goes on to say, Canada now officially recognizes the state of Palestine and is doing so with international partners to preserve the prospect of a two-state solution, according to a statement from Prime Minister Mark Carney's office released Sunday morning. Over many decades, Canada's commitment to a two-state solution was premised on the expectation that this outcome would eventually be achieved as part of a negotiated settlement, the Prime Minister's office said. And how much did Canada get involved to make that happen? You know, they said that they're committed to a two-state solution, that they want peace, that they want negotiations. How much leverage did Canada put on Hamas and Israel to negotiate? How much involvement did Canada put pressure onto Israel and Hamas to negotiate, to do the hostage deal, to actually prosperously end this war? They didn't. They didn't whatsoever. So they're lying about their own commitment. They're lying about their own commitment. They failed on their own promises. This two-state solution ideology that they thought about beforehand, and it'd be great, but at the same time, I'm getting billions of dollars in investments and opportunities to build, deadly weapons for Israel. I'm being blackmailed and deceived by Mossad, by intelligence agencies. So I'm not actually going to lift a finger to actually resort to a peaceful negotiation. As we stated before, this has nothing to do with October 7th. It has nothing to do with Hamas. It has nothing to do with the hostages. We know what this is all about, and the fact that Canada is still so blinded to this. How is it that I know more about this situation? I have better intel from my own computer in my own house than the Prime Minister and the entire Parliament. How is that possible? Maybe because I'm not bought. But anyway, it goes on to say, however, that possibility has been steadily and gradually eroded by several developments, including the October 7th, 2023 Hamas-led attack on Israel, the Israeli parliament's resolution supporting annexation of the occupied West Bank, and the Israeli government's restrictions on humanitarian aid. Hamas has terrorized the people of Israel and oppressed the people of Gaza, wreaking horrific suffering, the PMO statement said. Hamas has stolen from the Palestinian people, cheated them of their life and liberty, and can in no way dictate their future. In addition, the current Israeli government is working methodically to prevent the prospect of a Palestinian state from ever being established. It is now the avowed policy of the current Israeli government that there will be no Palestinian state. So Benjamin Netanyahu already made it clear that there's not going to be a Palestinian state. It's already wiped out. So for Canada to do this, for the UK, for France, for all these partnering countries to finally get up to the plate to say, hey, I think we should give Palestinians a bit of respect and tolerance, is absolutely just insane. At this point, like, you had all this opportunity to actually do something. It's completely destroyed. It's completely unlivable, which was the whole prospect of why Israel did this. They want to make it unlivable so that the Palestinians will be forced out of the country. They take over and steal a lot of the resources, steal a lot of the real estate development opportunities, which is a big component of this. Why they want to go into Gaza is for the real estate. Again, the fact that I know this, the fact that a schmuck like me in his basement on his computer just doing Google searches has more information about this than the entire parliament is crazy. And let's not forget that Hamas was founded in part by the Israeli government. They need a terrorist organization to go after the Palestinian resistance, the peaceful resistance, the PLO, that were trying to liberate the Palestinians from occupation, by occupation of Israelis. Who have they been under since 1948, since the Nakba? And they don't tell you any of this in the coverage. They don't tell you any of this. Again, just like they did with Ukraine, they want you to believe that this war started on October 7th, 2023. They don't want to tell you the chapters all beforehand that led up to that conflict, the reason that this happened, which shows you how an utter disgrace this is. The PMO added that Canada offers its partnership in building the promise of a peaceful future for both the state of Palestine and the state of Israel. The announcement comes as Carney prepares to meet with world leaders in New York during the United Nations General Assembly. Australia, the United Kingdom, and Portugal also announced on Sunday they are recognizing the state of Palestine. Again, you would think this would be a kind of sigh of relief, a little bit of a happy moment. When I first saw this, I'm like, why? We knew it was coming. And again, even when they made the announcement that they're starting to recognize a Palestinian state, I even said then, why? Like, you're already at the point of no return. You're already way beyond the point of no return. So why are you recognizing a pile of ash and rubble that you purposely funded into, that you purposely are complicit of? Why are you now recognizing that as a state in which nobody can live there anymore? No one can live there. So what's the point of recognizing a state of Palestine that's completely wiped out? It's so ridiculous. Here's NBC News also stating that the UK, Canada, and Australia formally recognize a Palestinian state, breaking with the United States. So again, that's one of my theories of why they're doing this, is this is a jab towards the United States, elbows up, anti-American, unless it's Jimmy Kimmel getting fired. Then the Canadian media will pounce and do sob stories about Jimmy Kimmel being fired, but that's another conversation we're going to have at a different point. Absolutely hysterical. But not as hysterical as some of the reactions on social media. So Mark Nixon states, August 1st, Carney said no recognition of Palestine unless Hamas releases all hostages, Hamas is disarmed, and Hamas played zero role in governance. So I get that he's trying to point out that Mark Carney lied to you. And we know that Mark Carney is a serial liar. But again, I ask people, what did Canada do to make that promise? Did they look into where Hamas was getting their funding? Did they threaten Hamas to take the money away? Did they threaten Israel to take the money away unless there was a negotiation, unless you get the hostages back? Did they do anything in actually resorting to an actual sit-down, actual policy, actual negotiation? No, absolutely not. And while they were trying to tell people, yeah, we feel bad for Gaza, we feel bad for, all the children that are being starved, Carney went behind your backs, took your tax dollars, and sent more to Israel. And continued on the business partnership. Because why? Because Israel was buying Canadian ammunition. That's why they're the greatest ally. Not because we actually share anything, but because, hey, evildoers get along. So that's Mark Nixon's take of it. Here's some more interesting takes. This is Mario Zelia, who I respect him. You know, he does some good work, but this is where he kind of leaves off. It says, today, Canada rewarded terrorism. You can brutally kill over 1,100 innocent lives, women and children, and be rewarded with statehood. In fact, you could still hold innocent hostages, and Canada will reward it. To the world, these are not Canadian values. These are liberal values. I hate to break the news to you, but Israel had every opportunity to do a hostage swap. Every opportunity. There was how many times they could have actually resorted to a peace settlement. But, of course, they didn't want to do that. They didn't want a ceasefire. And who's they I'm talking about? I'm talking about the IDF. I'm talking about Israel. They did not go into a ceasefire. They broke and violated their own ceasefire agreements. Why? Because they want this war to keep going. It has nothing to do with the hostages. They made it perfectly clear. It has nothing to do with the hostages, nothing to do with October 7th. If anyone actually looked into the details of that horrific day, you would understand it was nothing to do with October 7th. And that particular day, the reason why it was so horrific is because of something called the Hannibal Directive that Israel operated on, where they attacked their own civilians. And the people that were at the music festival on that day were suing the IDF. Let's not forget that. The people at the horrific day in question that people keep referring to, October 7th, they are suing the IDF, of all people. Not Hamas, not Palestine. They're suing the IDF. Why? Because Apache helicopters were flying over the people, shooting at them, directly targeting them, blowing up their cars, blowing up everything in sight to make it look more horrific. Why? To convince us here in the West that don't read up on things, that can't do their own research since COVID, and think of it as a terrorist plot. Think of it as we got to go after Hamas. Just like, again, if you look at where Al-Qaeda and ISIS came from, it squares right back to the United States, the same government, the same country that wants us to go into continuous wars to defeat these people. We're fighting our own creations. Because you can't have a war on terror unless you create the terror first. And I just find it absolutely hilarious and almost insulting that I know this information. Me, just doing from Google searches, just by looking up at different publications, Israeli media points it perfectly clear. But yet, no one in parliament, none of these influencers, they're willing to look this up. Oh, we're just going to take the state by hand? Okay. Trust the official narrative? Okay. Just like we should have trusted, the narrative on COVID. Just like we're trusting the narrative of who assassinated Charlie Kirk. Just take the state's word on it. Trust me, brah. Or how about this? This is probably one of my most hilarious. Is coming from this organization, Honest Reporting Canada, who I've made very clear that it's absolutely hilarious to me and absurd that you call yourself Honest Reporting Canada. First of all, if you have to have honest in the title of your organization, I'm already kind of suspicious. I'm already kind of in that suspicious mode. Like having honest reporting in your title, in the title of your organization, is already suspicious enough. But here's where this gets even more shameful. They said, today marks a shameful chapter in our nation's history. Rather than taking a principled stance against terrorism, Canada's chosen to reward terrorists for their actions. A few questions for Mark Carney. Who will actually run a Palestinian state? It certainly can't be the Palestinian Authority, which Canada currently envisions. Most PA leaders continue to not only have issues with recognizing Israel's right to exist, but also openly fueled incitement against Israelis. The PA also continues to financially reward terrorists and their families who commit terrorism against Israelis through the PA's pay-to-slay program. And let's be absolutely clear, Hamas maimed, raped, tortured, and murdered 1,200 Israelis and kidnapped 250 plus hostages on October 7th. Less than 2 years later, we're rewarding these barbarians with statehood. Again, this goes as far back as 1948. Just to make that point. They want you to believe that all this started October 7th, but this has been going on for over 70 years since the formation of the said colonization of Israel. This has been going on for over 70 years. But again, they want you to only focus on October 7th, just like how they want you to focus that Russia stormed into Ukraine and that's when that started that war. No. There's whole entire chapters way beforehand. There's an entire history of why this is happening. They're never going to tell you this. Not even the honest reporting of Canada. Which is why this is such a joke of an organization. Honest Reporting Canada. It's like those Chinese laundromats that tried to, name their laundromat to form into the community that they're in. Oh, we're the Wayne Gretzky hockey, maple syrup drinking, Molson beer cleaners. Okay. Obviously, we know that's a front for something. Canada's historical commitment to a two-state solution is no secret, and countless leaders before Mark Carney have also glossed over the hand questions like where the state will exist and who will run it. The Montevideo Convention defines strict criteria for statehood. A state needs borders and permanent population and a government. Let's face it, there is no state of Palestine that meets this criteria. Why is that? Why is that? Maybe because we slaughtered a bunch of people. Maybe because we destroyed everything in its path, made it unlivable. Why is that? Why does it not fit the criteria of statehood? They don't tell you this detail. They don't tell you this detail purposely. And I've been hounding them about this. I keep adding on to the context of this. Because again, every time they mention about Hamas and this and that, I remind them where Hamas came from, where their money came from, why exactly they were able to swarm in to the Iron Superdome that is Israel. They're supposed to have the most advanced security system known to mankind. How a bunch of people in hang gliders and broken F-150s were able to swarm in to a concert event that had the highest security. How is that possible? Oh, maybe because they were allowed to do it. Why? For this exact purpose. And it's embarrassing that I know this, but they don't know this. But the parliament doesn't know this. Maybe because I'm not bought. I'm not some sort of simp for whatever Mossad regime, whatever Israeli occupation that hovers over these organizations, the Honest Reporting Canada. Give me a break. Palestinian areas have no fixed borders and they're split between rival hostile governments. Ignoring international standards undermines future negotiations and sets a dangerous precedent for global instability. But they're not going to ask further questions. They're not going to investigate. They're not going to, again, just absolutely ridiculous. Here's Congressman Mike Lawler commenting on this. He says, this is reckless decision by the UK, Canada, and Australia. It is a betrayal of our ally Israel and a gift to Hamas and Iran's terror proxies. Rewarding terrorism with premature recognition does nothing to advance peace and will only embolden extremists whose stated goal is the destruction of Israel. I just find it hilarious that we're stating this after the 20 plus years that our countries have been in Afghanistan trying to combat terrorism, that we're supposed to be going after Al-Qaeda and ISIS and the Taliban. And what happened after the 20 plus years? Okay, we cracked down on Osama bin Laden and supposedly killed him. Okay, but what have we done since then? What advancement have we done? Because the Taliban are still operating, and we still have troops there. We're still fighting somewhat in Afghanistan. We had to pull out, but leave billions of dollars of weaponry right in the hands of the Taliban. What did we successfully do in Afghanistan? We didn't defeat the terrorists, but thank God we got Tim Hortons in Kandahar. 20 plus years of war. Have we not learned anything? Have we not learned anything in all the decades of illegal occupation, all the years we've been bombing and going after and just slaughtering country after country? Have we not learned anything from this? Apparently not. Apparently not. And here's just to remind people, this is Israeli publications that pointed this out. And again, I find it hilarious that someone like me is able to find this material so easily from a Google search. But yet, no one in Parliament, no one in the White House, well, we know why the White House, but no one in Parliament, none of these influencers, none of these people on social media that are screaming about Hamas and October 7th, they're not able to look at this. They're not able to do a Google search and find this information. Like how it says Netanyahu's funding for Hamas via Qatar enabled October 7th invasion. Shin Bet reveals. So people within the Israeli government are highlighting this, that this is all planned. This is all manufactured. Like we have told you from the start. And I just cannot believe that even at this point, at this moment, people aren't waking up to this. How many years of warfare have we done? And people still think of this as, oh, we're fighting terrorism. We're going after the bad guys. This is good versus evil. We're trying to stop the world from dangerous extremists and jihadists. Where did they come from? Where are these jihadists? Where are these, extremists, these violent people? Where did they come from? Because terrorism doesn't just happen overnight. It's not organic that someone's just born into a terrorist regime. Usually involves someone from a higher point and maybe someone that is claiming to fight the evils of society to create those evils. Why? So they have a purpose to create warfare. Just like it was intentional for the United States to create the Mujahideen so that they can go into the Middle East, claim that they're fighting these wars of terror, even though they're fighting their own creation. And the people that are cheering this on are the people that profit from the death and disparity of both sides. Here's another case. Times of Israel. We've shown this many times before. For years, Netanyahu propped up Hamas. Now it's blown up in their faces. Or how about this one? October 7th failure connected to Netanyahu helping Qatar fund Hamas. They funded this terrorist organization purposely so that the Palestinians who had the PLO, a non-violent resistance against the occupation that they're dealing with Israel, completely get quashed off by Hamas. They did this all intentionally. Again, this is not about October 7th. This goes as far back as 1948. And it's amazing that no one's able to recognize this except for very few individuals. Very few individuals that actually bothered to do the research, bothered to bring receipts. And that's why I find so funny, all the people that are going after, Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and, saying they're anti-Semitic or whatnot. You may disagree with their approach or their conclusions, but I'm inclined to believe people that actually bring receipts to their arguments to back their case, as opposed to social media jerks that continuously troll people without any sort of acknowledgement or any sort of evidence to back their arguments. Oh, Candace Owens is a liar and a hypocrite and an anti-Semite. Okay, where's your receipts? Where's your proof? Where's your evidence? Where can you point out that Candace Owens purposely lied? They don't have it. They don't have it. That's why I'm kind of inclined to believe people like that. I'm inclined to believe someone that actually has done their homework. You can't dismiss one theory by not providing context on why you dismissed it. It's absolutely insane. Just like the people that tried to dismiss the lab leak theory of COVID. Oh, that's crazy. We have no suspicion to believe that's laboratory that creates coronavirus was responsible for COVID-19. That's crazy. That's it. That's anti-Asian hate. But yet they have no argument to back that. They just say it's crazy. But we're supposed to believe that it came from a wet market? Well, what proof and evidence do you have that it came from a wet market? They had nothing. They had nothing. And here, this is from Kitz. It says, listen to Netanyahu's statement from today. It's final. Netanyahu and his cabinet say no to a Palestinian state unless approved by Israel. It's a smack in the face for Biden and other world leaders who have been peddling the two-state solution. So again, I find it absolutely just hypocritical. I find it absolutely redundant that at this point in time, that Canada, the UK, France, these European allies that finally came up to the plate to recognize a Palestinian state, yeah, you're too late. You are too late. Because they're never going to agree to a Palestinian state. They're already at the final stages. And here's proof of it from Benjamin Netanyahu. So I'm going to turn it down and read the subtitles here. In the light of recent conversations in the international community about an inept to force Israel in one way or another into a Palestinian state, I am bringing today the cabinet and the cabinet's decision on this issue. I am certain that we will achieve a very broad agreement here in this decision. Israel is required to collect internationally documents regarding the permanent speaks way too fast. The permanent agreement with the Palestinians. Such an agreement will be reached only through direct negotiations between the parties. Israel will continue to resist the one-sided recognition of a Palestinian state. Again, these are people that violated their own peace agreements. These are the people that recently bombed Qatar during a negotiation summit that was produced by Donald Trump. And yet the Trump administration still peddling their ass for Israel. What is that? What again? What one-sided? One-sided. What one-sided piece of this are you talking about? Are you talking about the Palestinians? Or are you talking about yourself that purposely don't want a peace negotiation, that purposely violated their own contracts? When even the state of Israel is protesting against you. And as I stated here, with this picture, that's Gaza. That's the state of Palestine that they want to recognize. And I said the recognition of a state of Palestine after it's been destroyed. It was never about hostages or Hamas or lives or humanitarianism or Jews or Arabs. This was and always has been a strategic kill and conquer genocide dating to the formation of Israel during the Nakba in 1948. That has always been the case. They don't tell you that because people, if you heard that, you'd think that's crazy. That's psychotic. That this is part of the Zionist prophecy. Oh my God, it sounds like a death call. Exactly. But no, they want you to be manipulated. They want brainwashing. They want mind control and blackmail and deceive you to allow for this to happen. And now that they're at the final stages, now that they've completely did their deeds, I find it absurd that Canada has the notion, has the moxie to just go up and say, yeah, we're going to recognize Palestine as a state. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Even more crazy when this news just came out. This is just from yesterday from antiwar.com. Israeli drone strikes on southern Lebanon kills American father and his 3 children. American civilians killed by Israel. Do you think that's going to reach the Prime Minister's office? Do you think that message is going to be sent to Congress that 3 Americans were killed by Israelis? Do you think that they're going to be concerned? Do you think they're going to wake up and go, oh, this greatest ally thing? It doesn't seem good that they're killing our own civilians. Or are they just going to give the cold shoulder, walk away, and make up some excuse for this? Like, oh, I'm sure that American father and his kids were part of Hamas somehow. They're going to grow up to be terrorists somehow. Why are they in Lebanon in the first place? That's an ugly place. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy and insane. Breaking. Israel dropped a bomb on a car carrying the entire family in South Lebanon, killing 3 children and their father. The mother and eldest daughter are critically injured. From Gaza to Lebanon, Syria to Yemen, Israel is slaughtering civilians and calling it self-defense. They're currently bombing, 8, 9 countries simultaneously? And yet, I'm still supposed to believe that this is good intention, that they're, stopping this terror that's going around the world that's threatening my daily life here in this side of the hemisphere. I'm supposed to believe that. I'm supposed to believe this is the greatest ally. Why? Because Zionists told me to? Because the heads of state that are being blackmailed and deceived by a foreign entity, they're the ones that have the best interest in mind? Why am I supposed to believe this? Why am I supposed to believe that Israel is doing right in the world when we could prove, we have extensive evidence, we have receipt after receipt of all the wrongdoings that they have done since October 7th, but even further than that? It's just absolutely insane. But yet, we're supposed to be, shutting up and celebrating the fact that, well, at least Canada recognizes Palestine. So I guess those guys that are protesting on the street, caring about children, you guys should just go back and drink your soy lattes and eat avocado toast again. Because we did it! Yay! It's all destroyed, but it's a state. Yay! And I just want to throw this out here to all the people, again, all these, pro-Israel pushers. And again, you can have your reason. You can have your reason, whether it's, because you just think that they're a great ally, you've been told by the heads of state that they are, or maybe there's a biblical purpose to it. We know that, Christian Zionists, they're, sucked into the Jesus bait, which I kind of find hilarious. I know it's been a while since I've attended a church or Sunday school, but I do find it kind of intriguing that Jesus Christ, who pledges, love and support among all men and loves and cares, and, we are God's children around the world. We have souls. But in order for him to come back to earth, we have to slaughter a bunch of people. Kind of seems crazy. And also, it just seems crazy that no one mentions the fact that thousands in Tel Aviv protest against Netanyahu's plan to escalate Gaza war. Organizers say more than 100,000 people joined demonstration demanding end to military campaign. So, I asked the people that are pro-Israel, do you recognize these Israelis? Do you recognize that do you support these people? Or are you just supporting Israel because that's what the government has told you? And that's the official narrative, and no one should question the official narrative. Because these are actually Israelis. And a lot of Israelis don't support this. Many do. Many do. The Zionists definitely do. And the Zionists have went after the people of Israel. They're going after Jewish people. They bombed, Christian churches. So, again, for people to think that Zionism is doing the holy work of Christianity and Christian Judo ethnicity is absolutely absurd. Because Zionism is the cancer to these religions. It's the cancer that's eroding Judeo-Christian ethics. It's absolutely crazy. But it's even more crazy that Mark Carney, at this point, is going to recognize Palestine as a state. When anyone that can pull up their phone right now and look at an image of today, of what Gaza looks like today, can shake their head and go, what the hell is the point? You had all this time. You had all this influence. You could have easily put pressure on Israel and Hamas to negotiate, to stop this. You could have easily done something about this. But no, they took the opportunity now. They took the opportunity now to recognize Palestine as a state. And I just shake my head and go, a state of what? Rubble, ash, deterioration? That you turn a once beautiful, prosperous nation on its heels, on its deathbed? That you helped assist and aided the further destruction, and now you're claiming to rebuild it? Oh, we want peace now. Oh, that's great. After we've slaughtered a bunch of people, after we malnourished them and killing them off in the desert, now we want to figure out peace. Absolutely absurd. And to Mark Carney and to the rest of the liberal establishment and to the people that are still pushing this, I hope you watch yourself. I hope you do some real soul searching. And may God have mercy on your souls.